Hello, people, it is I, a nerd named BT, here once again with another YouTube video. Today, guys, we are going to be talking about the updated Rush Duel format as of the starting of the most recent set release of Phoenix. I don't remember the set, it is Phoenix something, yes. That was released on August 11th, so about 3 weeks since the posting of this video. Okay. So once again, I'm gonna say, as I do all the other meta videos, I do accumulate the listing by the number of posted recorded wins on Twitter from official OTS stores. So the full pie chart is basically pointing out the best strategy to consistently win a tournament. It does not fully accurately represent the meta entirely, but does show a proper representation of what to expect more than the others. And you guys, once we get through that, let's get into the video. So starting us off is going to be the main part of the meta report, which are the primary decks, and not much to expect, and it is. Yeah. If you were very much aware of the most recent format, Wonder Fusion still has a huge lead on a majority of these decks, especially in power, and it hasn't, in terms of tier 1 decks, Wonder Fusion is still going to be the top of the tier list. It's still tier 1, it is still going to be everywhere, it's very much so, but there are some other new notes on this tier list. But of course, start us off, of course, we have 14 representations of Wonder Fusion. Clap, 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 clap. I would clap, but I don't have hands. Y'all know this, but I am gonna once again explain to Wonder Fusion, all those who don't know. Wonder Fusion is just a very simple deck, similar to if you've been around for parallel order format. You effectively dump your deck or your hand into the graveyard, you activate a few spells, you bring out powerful monsters, except this time these monsters have powerful effects. Being 7 Gi as the big monster it is, it can gain a large amount of attack and attack multiple times. So until Konami considers a way to deal with Wonder Fusion, deal with any of the monsters that make this possible, though I doubt they're ever going to hit Dragias or 7-0 Magician, and even limiting 7 Gias isn't really going to do much, considering the fact that 7 Gias is enough to simply win a majority of games. So the only option we're really hoping for to help push this back a little bit is potentially limiting Wonder Fusion. I don't believe that they're still going to do any banned cards as of yet, because we don't have any tier... Okay, we've had tier 0 in the past, but we don't have any aggressive cards that need to be immediately banned. So yeah, that's what you're going to be expecting for the continuation of this format, all the way up to the next sets. After that, we do have a deck which I helped predict, which no one had any faith in me for, is Secret Investigator. Whoa! Yeah, Secret Investigator is a very consistent strategy that is doing pretty well with only 4 representations. It is fairly low in comparison to Wonder Fusion, though do not underestimate it. Secret Investigator is a very consistent combo deck, has a handful of win conditions, of course, as in Calgian, Snake, Princess of Purity, and all the other cards, which actually there's not really much else. Those are your only 2 win conditions. So basically mixed up with a combination of meta staples along with the primary package, you will be able to see a very consistent deck. Though I do also have a showing for this deck, since this is technically a new deck on the tier list. I'm going to give you an example. So here we have an example list from a individual who referred to themselves as Abyss. Congratulations on your tournament win. So this is basically what you're going to be seeing a majority of the time in terms of Secret Investigator. It's no surprise that's how it is. You're playing 3 Mistake because, you know, that's your main extender. You have 3 Miscast, your starter. And then, honestly, most people are arguing about this. 3 Misery. Honestly, yeah, a lot of people are so surprised. But yeah, this is basically how you're going to see a majority of these decks. It is always going to be Purity and Calgian, which are going to be your primary win conditions, which, don't get me wrong, these 2 are very powerful cards, and the fact that you can summon multiple of them from the graveyard repeatedly in a turn makes it a lot scarier. And then, of course, you got some of the reptile staples, which is Clawgan, which is basically piercing. And Chameleon is actually not being used for its addition effect, though, of course, you can sometimes get Shock Trooper. You're mainly using it as a way to mill cards to the grave. You don't really care about not attacking with anything but reptiles for the turn. That's just kind of a thing you just somewhat ignore because, of course, your win condition is pure reptile. And then with it, you simply just slap in a bunch of stable cards. Whatever you feel like, that's just how it is. Because the primary purpose of this deck is to simply get out the Secret Investigators, dump your deck, and somehow Purity and Calgian. Though I will say there are a majority of competitive decks which are playing 3 copies of Secret File 33 because it's still a pretty good trap. Reducing a monster's attack by 3,000 is pretty huge. Though it's in a mix right now, you will also be seeing people play something like Warning Scales in order to fend off the Seven's Gias. You're not playing 3 copies of it in the main deck because even if you are going to see a lot of 7 Gias, it's not going to affect many decks. If you're fighting against a mirror match of a Secret Investigator, sometimes you might get it off on Calgion, sometimes you might not. It's still something you want to consider playing against or side decking against 7 Gias. And of course, for the rest of the meta chart, we have the 2 other decks which are currently tied, both having 4 representations, like Secret Investigator. It is Cyber Dragon and Harpy. Harpy is not much of a surprise, though. It is getting a fair bit lower on the tier list in terms of representation. It's still very powerful. It's just Wonder Fusion is continuing to just dominate the format, and it's making it very difficult for Harpy players to consistently get through that deck, even though that they do have a handful of outs, they do have their ways around it, but they are still somewhat struggling to really prevent their opponent from killing them that turn. Cyber Dragon continues to be one of the best fan service decks, I suppose. The primary point of Cyber Dragon is you are seeing a bit more the new Assault Dragon, which is basically a new fusion monster, which just pops a monster, which is pretty good. But it is Cyber Twin Dragon, which is making this deck pretty good. You might also see it with Glass Engine, which is basically summon AAC Serpent, give Cyber Twin Dragon extra 1,000 attack and piercing, and then you basically can somewhat OTK. And with the amount of support it has, it is an incredibly consistent deck, outside of the fact that you do need to draw Power Bond or Fusion. So until Cyber Dragon really gets a way to get into that spell faster, Cyber Dragon will continue to be the nightmare of Rush for me. Just this deck is never going to die apparently in any format I show ever since it was shown or released. After that, we do have a few double representations, 2 of these for each. We have Pure Glass in my most recent format video, if you've seen it. Pure Glass is basically a deck focused around summoning out the Pure Glass Sea Servant, which it with Grand Extreme or without Grand Extreme. The entire idea is to summon it, get as many monsters that can attack twice as you can in your deck, give them 1,000 attack and piercing, then just simply go in for game consistently. These 2 decks were primarily shown as that was the main focus of the deck. Of course, there are other decks in this listing that did play a Pure Glass, just simply the monster, not a deck focused around it, and were side decking a engine for it. But these were representations of just pure glass. Along with that is 2 representation of Chemicalized Phoenix, which is not really surprising. Chemicalized Phoenix is a very powerful card with a lot of potential removal. The main issue with it is, of course, once again, it is a maximum deck. Even with amazing recovery cards, it does not have as much draw power, especially with the awkward deck building it is, playing Thunder, Pyro, and Aqua. Though with the cards it has, it can do fairly well. Once you get on board, it makes a lot of makes a lot of decks have a difficult time trying to remove it, especially once you have the equip spell that prevents it from being destroyed by card effects. We have 2 representations from Jointech, which is effectively just Power Bond Turbo. Of course, you know the regular combo, none of these really played the maximum. You get Centipede and Grave, you summon out Scorpio, you add back Fusion Power Bond, use Centipede to bounce Scorpio back to hand, pop a card, activate Power Bond, go in for game. That's effectively it. And then We have two representations of Light Galaxy. You know Light Galaxy, it's in every format. And two representations of Gaia. These are accounted for a pure Gaia variant, which, good for them, good for them. That is a very difficult feat to do. So I want to say Gaia is also seeing very vague points of being a competitive engine in Rush Duel as of right now. The most common card engine for Gaia you're going to see is 3 Veteran Curse of Dragon and 3 Gaia the Fierce Knight. The reason for this is because Veteran Curse of Dragon has the ability to special summon itself from hand, meaning that it's a level 5 monster that can summon itself out of hand, unlike the Veteran Gaia Knight, who simply just tribute summons for 1 less tribute on a level 5 monster or higher monster. So people have figured out that it is arguably the better strategy or the better pairing to use, since you can simply summon Curse of Dragon wherever you want, shuffle back Gaia Knight, which is once again a level 7, which depending on your deck can affect it or support it. And then you can either pop a trap or spoil a trap card or go in for game. It's not too popular right now, but you will more likely be seeing it in a few different strategies. Not Wonder Fusion, of course, because Wonder Fusion can do well with his own fusion spell. And then lastly, with one representation each, it is Void Velgear, Executee Monarch, and Dark Abyss maximum. We can effectively say Executee isn't having too much of a fun time right now. Though, I think it was about time that the deck finally retired from its place anywhere on the tier list. It was a very respectable deck for a while. But yeah, this is the current format as it is. Wonder Fusion, of course, very powerful, but if you these rogue decks still are enough to quickly finish off the game before Wonder Fusion realistically gets out their win condition. That's kind of the format we're in right now, is if you can't play fast enough to defeat your opponent, they will simply drop the win card, which honestly they can even get out on turn 2 sometimes, so be fast, hit hard, hope they didn't draw it. Anywho, let's go on to looking at the Legend Monster tier list. Up next, we have as said before, the Legend Monsters, yay! Probably one of the more entertaining Legend card parts of the tier list, because Legend Monsters are very diverse. They're not as generic as the other or spawn trap cards, which can simply be played in anything. Legend Monsters do have to take into account their level, their effect, somewhat their effect, their typing, their attribute. That really does make a huge difference for Legend Monsters, which is why it always looks so diverse. But first and foremost, let's get that out of the way. Rise of the Storm Monarch with 6 representations. Yeah, no surprise, Ryza is the top rated. I don't want to say the main Legend monster to play, because as you can see, it's fairly balanced out. Ryza is the most powerful one at current. It is being played in almost every Harpy deck, of course, and it is being played in decks that don't really have removal for anything with effect protection, so not Reptile. Yeah, Rise of the Storm Monarch is just arguably the strongest monarch of the format. It's pretty good, pretty good. And also probably, I don't want to say the strongest legend, because, you know, every legend does technically have a part. But yeah. After that, we do have Jinzo. Guess who was playing Jinzo? Of course, it was the Wonder Fusion deck. People are still afraid of not having enough back removal, so you simply drop Jinzo, lock them out of trap cards a turn, and then swing in directly, or just swing in twice with Seven's Gias for game. No surprise. Though it is nice to see that Jinzo is actually coming back after so long, because Jinzo feels like he comes in and out of formats repeatedly, similar to when Dark, Abyss Maximum, and Harpy were the primary decks of the format. Jinzo slowly headed out of the way, just because they weren't really heavily trap focused, they were more monster and spell focused. So welcome back, Jinzo. It's always nice to see you around. The best floodgate in Rush Duel currently. After that, we do have 3 representation of Alien Shock Trooper. Guess who was playing this? Yep. It was Secret Investigator. It is a level 4 normal reptile. That's about it. Sometimes you get it off the effect of I forgot the name already. Simply either mill it, probably add it to hand, but that doesn't matter. It is just a reptile. That's the only reason you play it, is simply deck filler if you have space. After that, we have two representation of Zaborg, the Thunder Monarch. I don't know why people are honestly playing this, though, people that want to play like a light strategy, sure, you'll pick Zaborg, but it's honestly surprising that people are actually picking this over Ryza. Though only two representations is fairly low, but the fact that someone's winning consistently with this is still pretty amazing. And then the last thing for the two representations is the Vanity's Fiend, a floodgate that simply locks out all special summon for the turn, or while it's on the field. Of course, that's pretty good. It's a floodgate. It stops all special summons, which is primarily the format currently, excluding things like Harpy Lady, sometimes Harpy Lady, and Harpy Lady, Monarch. I don't want to count Monarch as a actual deck, primarily Harpy Lady. But with the main decks being a fusion deck, of course, Vanity's Fiend is going to be good. Then we have all the one-ofs that appeared randomly in decks. We have Archfiend Soldier, Summon Skull, Thestalos the Storm Monarch, Firestorm Monarch, which was basically in one of the Joint Tech decks. It was a very weird burn deck. Magician's Valkyrie, Blue Eyes White Dragon, Millennium Shield, which was surprisingly enough inside a Wonder Fusion deck. Great Maju Garzet, Barrel Dragon, Dark Magician, Mirage Dragon, Cybertech Alligator, and then that's it. Yeah, that's it. uh, Basically, play what you want. If you want to play with one of the more popular ones, you can, but as you can see from this, play it to your own taste. Legend monsters are simply the most optional thing you can possibly play. If it fits with your deck, it fits with your deck. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Anywho's, let's move on. Okay, here's the fun part of it. The most tier 0 part of the any format, usually, sometimes, is legend spells. And as you can see, yep, we're back to Dark Hole, everybody. If you watched the previous meta video, you would be able to know that this is significantly different from previously, because prior to the current format, the most recent format, consistency cards were the name of the game. You were seeing people play Graceful Charity, Pot of Greed, Recurrent Nightmare. I think it was Reoccurring Nightmare. Yeah, it was probably Reoccurring Nightmare, Pot, or Monster Born, all of that. They were heavily popular. But once again, we've now returned to a primarily Dark Hole related format. Of course, Dark Hole's on the first part of this with 10 representations. It's a card that destroys all monsters on the field. People are still very hesitant to really be playing this, especially in a format which is all about OTKs. uh, yeah, that's just it. That's all I gotta say. I say this basically every meta update. Destroying all cards on the field, that's just how it is. It doesn't even have to be Dark Galaxy. You just simply play it, clear the board, and you're fine. Sometimes you gotta clear the back row too. After that is 6 representations of Graceful Charity. As said, consistency is the name of the game. You want to simply get to your power cards like Wonder Fusion faster. And Graceful Charity is the main card to do that. Draw 3, discard 2 is significantly better than draw 2. Going +1, technically, I don't want to say go +1 on Graceful Charity, but you simply do because you draw 3 cards deep, you send the materials you need to the grave. Wonder Fusion, you probably win. We got 4 representations of Power Bond. Guess who had that? Yes, Cyber Dragon. It's just Cyber Dragon. Though one of them actually did belong to. Actually, I don't remember. Yeah, basically just Cyber Dragon. Not really any Joint Tech decks are too focused on needing Power Bond. Why? Because they want to play Dark Hole instead. Ain't that crazy? Apparently, it's still just Cyber Dragon that depends on this because it is the best OTK enabler for Cyber Dragon. Get a AK, Cyber End Dragon, get a 48. Is it 48? I think 50. Sorry, a 5600 Cyber Twin Dragon. Just go in for game. That simple. Then we have the two ofs, which is Monster Born and Heavy Storm. Very self-explanatory. Free summons and a free back row removal in a semi back row focused format. Not really too focused, but yeah. Considering, though, if you can clear the back row, it's still pretty good. And then the one-ofs is Recurring Nightmare, Pot of Greed, and then surprisingly, 2 people have said that they wanted no spell card, which is pretty interesting. Yeah. Yeah, but hopefully by the next format, we will see a bit more of a push away from Dark Hole, because I really don't think Dark Hole's too great for the format, because it doesn't really offer much diversity and much enjoyment of eh, simply just nuking the board for free is very, very difficult sometimes. But I can't say for sure. This is what we're looking at, and this is what we have to live with. And finally are the legend traps. Yay. Another semi-interesting one considering the most recent formats. Though once again, you can see it's getting a little bit less diverse again. Of course, first on the board, it is 9 representations of Magic Cylinder. Magic Cylinder, basically have 7 Gigas punch your opponent in the face. That's how you live, and then possibly win sometimes. That's all I can really say. Magic Cylinder is basically a win condition for most decks, getting the final amount of damage dealt to your opponent, because a lot of the current decks right now are basically dumping out big, powerful beat sticks to go in for game. You can flip this over, you can steal game yourself. It's just a good card. Turn should tribute at 8 representations. Main phase interruption is somewhat important, especially when you are siding against Jinzo, of all things. And because once your opponent controls a monster, they may have an effect on them that could be clearing back row, and that's something that you don't really want to see. And a lot of the time, people will be able to have enough momentum to set up trap protection on their monsters before they can go in the battle phase, which makes things like Mirror Force a lot less consistent and reliable in comparison to just getting them out right away. After that, we do have 4 Negate Attack, the most recent legend card being added to the game. I believe I saw one person playing Negate Dragon, which is pretty surprising in all honesty, but most people were just playing Negate Attack as is. Negating the battle phase seems to be a popular enough concept to the point where it's like you don't even want to play the support card, you just want to play Negate Attack just to simply live a turn. Which is pretty good considering the fact that it is the only other card besides Magic Cylinder that negates an attack. By negating the battle phase, it means that monster trap protection won't kill you, basically. Unlike Mirror Force, which sometimes clear the board, sometimes doesn't. Negate attack just simply ends the battle phase. Pretty good. I'm happy that it is seeing a bit of representation. After that, we do have 2 Mirror Force, as said, clearing the board pretty good. 2 Icarus attack, therefore Harpy Ladies, which is a good main phase interruption. I don't need to go into too much detail. Sakuretsu armor. He wasn't even playing Sakuretsu Force. I don't know what he was up to. I don't know what he was cooking, but he chose Sakuretsu armor. Then one person chose to play no legend traps. So I don't want to say I'm too upset about the legend trap situation because we can't really do much in consideration in considering the current format as it is, which is big beater go burr. It's fully understandable that this is the way that we're going to be looking at it for the time being until the next ban list that would come out. We have to stop these big attacks. We have to stop these big beaters from going in for game every single time on turn 2. And this is realistically the only way that we're going to be able to do it. By hopefully next format, we'll be able to be a bit more lax and a bit more flexible about which legend traps we want to play. Well guys, that was the meta update for August. Yay! August of 2023. Though this video is going to be released on September 1st, I believe, which is going to be very awkward. This is interesting of a format. I'm not going to say I fully hate it. I do still love the concept of Wonder Fusion and Fusion monsters being a lot more viable than they once were originally in Rush Duel because of, you know, them being too slow. Getting out Fusion was really difficult. Getting out Fusion monsters was much more difficult because of all the main phase interruptions. It is gonna become a little bit unhealthy if this continues. Hopefully by the next ban list or next limited list, they might hit Wonder Fusion in a way. I'm still personally predicting that at most, the best thing we can get is limiting Wonder Fusion, if not banning it. Banning it is not going to be an option. They're 100% going to limit it because they can't hit a protagonist monster in Rush Duel. If they would, Dragias would have been hit a long time ago. But yeah, 7th Row Magician and Dragias are not going to be affected by this. it's 100% going to be Wonder Fusion, hopefully. But yes, if you all enjoy this format, or if you don't enjoy it, go ahead and comment down your opinion down below. And if you all enjoy it, you can leave a like or comment that I like it. Just simply know that if you enjoy these meta updates, and I will consider continuing them because people enjoy being informed. But anyways, guys, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all next time.